welcome to another episode of Now We're Talking. I'm Scott.
And I'm Julie.
And thanks for joining us again. We're going to start off with what we're calling our Cliff Clavin of the Week. This is our little, it's a little known fact then, Nami.
Hat tip to cheers.
I was right. I was scrolling threads and I saw this and double checked to make sure it's true. But apparently in college, Chevy Chase played drums in what they called a jazz rock trio called Leather Canary, which is a great 60s band name. Seeing no future in it, he quit to go off and, of course, became a globally successful comic actor. The remaining members decided to keep going as a duo and then changed their name to Steely Dan.
Yay.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
I mean, I never would have known that. So anyway.
Yeah, really cool.
All right. So with that in mind.
Well, today we're going to talk about travel. All about travel. Airline travel and the myriad of things that can go wrong and do go wrong. Cancellations, lost luggage, screaming, kicking children, and yes, today our asshole, or am I the asshole, is all about travel too. So we'll touch a little bit on travel insurance, car rentals, and gadgets that can make traveling a little bit easier.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think, we always call you the bad luck schlep rock of travel because it always seems like you either, your flight gets canceled or delayed or your luggage gets lost. Or
when you travel alone, it's all easy breezy. When I'm along, everything goes wrong.
So, and I think part of our, probably our biggest travel snafu was back in, 22? Yeah, it was spring of 22. We went to Great Britain we took like a tour of Great Britain. Started and ended in London, went up through Scotland, through the Highlands and everything, and it was a wonderful trip. But then that was pretty soon after a lot of the travel restrictions from COVID had been lifted. But in order to get back to the United States, you had to test for COVID, and of course you had to have a negative test in order to be able to enter the U.S. So the last full day of our tour, we had to stop. We were in Bath, and we had to stop at this testing place. And I don't know, there were like 7 or 8 of us that were traveling the next day.
Yeah. And
myself and one other person tested positive.
Just before Stonehenge.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Yeah.
And we knew that something was wrong with me because I developed a cough.
Yeah.
And I felt fine, but I was getting a cough, and so we weren't really that surprised. So then we were supposed to fly. We were traveling, like Julie said, we were going to Stonehenge after Bath, and then we're going back to London, and then the next day we're supposed to fly out. So we decided that the best thing to do, because we would have had to be in a hotel room together for a week, and then of course there was a chance that I would have given you the COVID.
Right.
You got the COVID.
Yeah.
And so the best thing we decided to do was for Julie to fly home. We also had the dogs to consider. We had a dog sitter here, taking care of them. So. So Julie flew home. I moved we were staying at a Hilton in London. I moved to a Marriott out by the airport because I could use points and it was cheaper.
Yeah.
Because we weren't sure about, and we're going to talk about travel insurance. So then I stayed there for, I think it was
5 days.
It was, these are 5 or I think on my 6th day I flew home.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
Like it was like the whole time I usually felt fine. It was just like I did have a pretty bad cough, and then when I would try to sleep, the cough would keep me awake. So I was pretty strung out on lack of sleep too. But towards the end I felt fine.
Even went to the museum.
Yeah, I even went back into London and masked up and went back in and so then I flew home by myself, like I said, like 5 or 6 days later. So Yeah, so that was probably, like I said, out of all the trips that we've taken either together or solo, that was probably the biggest monkey wrench that got thrown. I mean, I've been on trips where, like, I remember I went to visit some friends and I was only up at their house for like 2 days, and my luggage got there as I was just about ready to head back to the airport. Yeah. And we got a plane grounded in Texas because of the weather. Remember, we sat on that runway.
Yeah, it's on the tarmac forever.
Yeah. So anyway, so we've had some experiences, good and bad, traveling.
Yeah, and I always get blamed for the bad stuff. But anyway, we have 3 trips planned between now and the end of the year, so traveling is kind of top of mind for us. And of course, you turn the news on, and doors are flying off airplanes, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. So, and COVID is back. Not, I guess, back because it never really went away, but it's sort of peaking again. So we've kind of been thinking about our travel, what we can do, and travel insurance, having gone through that whole UK experience with Scott, caused us to really start thinking about how to travel a little smarter. And so we did a little research and kind of wanted to share some of the things that we'd found regarding that, because it might be helpful to someone else. And discovered what $4.2 billion annually are spent in travel protection. And obviously, we found out the hard way that that's not everything you think it is. So in our case, what it covered was just Scott's flight on the way home, because obviously you had to buy a new ticket. And when you buy a ticket with zero notice, I mean, you can't book it, 2 or 3 months out, it's way more expensive. And then his hotel expense was covered. Everything else really was on us. So there is an acronym we want to make everyone aware of. It's called CFAR. It means cancel for any reason. And because of COVID, that really did become more of a popular option for travelers. And so you should be aware of that. And it is more expensive, obviously, than just buying, regular insurance. I mean, one of the things I think people do, which is what we did, was when we booked our flight, you get an option to buy travel insurance, and so you click the box. And what you probably need to understand is the insurance company who is doing that is getting, for if you book through Expedia and just a direct air flight company, those people are getting kickbacks for that. So really be aware that that's probably not the best deal you're going to get, that you should really look outside of that for your coverage. And CFAR doesn't cover things like anything that's fear-based, or it does. Any other insurance you buy is not going to cover things like I'm afraid I'm going to get sick, or I'm afraid there's going to be a terrorist attack, or I think a hurricane might hit while we're there. I mean, those kind of things normally would not be covered, but under a CFAR policy, they would be. So what's not surprising is CFAR policy is going to cost you a bit more money. So if you, for example, take a $6,000 trip somewhere and just click the box, or buy just regular travel insurance without the CFAR attachment, it's probably going to cost you about $300. But if you ask and get the CFAR policy, it's going to cost you about $450. So it's about $150 more on that $6,000 trip. So,
but that seems, that seems worth it.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're going to spend like $6,000 or something on a trip, you're going overseas, you're going to be gone for a week.
For sure.
You got all these grandiose plans.
And honestly, if we'd known that was a thing, we would have done that.
Yep.
Because that would have covered your taxi expense, your food while you were there, the medical expenses, the whole 9 yards. So definitely something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I know you're going to talk about medical expenses.
Yeah.
I think people don't think about that too much.
Yeah. So, and if you're going to some remote part of the world, you might end up with a parasite or something. So there's always other medical factors that you need to consider as well. So then moving on, the calculations really need to hinge on two things: the cost of your trip, and then the value you place on your peace of mind, and then decide whether or not it's worth it. Because without the CFAR, the narrowness of the policy just might not be worth it. And of course, there are dramatic stories like the couple who went on a cruise to Mexico in 2019. I think the husband got really sick while he was there, and they were kind of saddled with a $14,000 ER bill, and they could not leave the country until it was paid. And it kind of hit the headlines, and Tyler Perry, of all people, got wind of what was going on, and he paid the bill for them so they could come home. But most people are not going to get that kind of assurance. So
it doesn't happen to us.
So don't count on Tyler Perry to bail you out. And just FYI, if you're older and covered by Medicare, they're not going to really do a whole lot for you as well. So if you're planning a trip overseas and you get some parasite or break your arm on a moped, Medicare probably isn't going to help you very much. There are some companies that allow you to type in your destination, your travel dates, the total cost of your trip, and then the age of the travelers. Then they can give you options based on different price points. If you're over 70, you'll notice they go up drastically. But we can put some of those in our notes in the podcast, so you can kind of refer back to those. And most importantly, though, just if you decide when you go to do the shopping for that, if you don't really care that much about getting the cost of the trip back, but you want to make sure you have evacuation coverage or medical care coverage, you can enter just a zero cost to calculate the trip portion, the trip cost of it, and then you can just buy the policy for the items that you want.
So would you, like, if you were planning a trip now, you would recommend to not click on the box on like Expedia or Travelocity or something?
Absolutely.
I
would say
don't do it through there and do it through one of these other companies?
No. Well, I mean, that might actually end up being the best, depending on where you're going and what your options are, but chances are that it's not going to be the best deal for you. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. I mean, in the end, I was glad that we had at least what we had, because it at least covered the two big portions of the costs.
We actually did that through Trafalgar.
Oh, right, we did.
Yeah,
right.
So that was the company that we used for the tour was a company called Trafalgar, and it was actually the second time we've taken a trip with them. But that you do have that option when you sign up for one of their tours.
Yeah.
Because that's
right.
who you had to deal with.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I was thinking that we got that through the airline, but you're right, we didn't. And also, I mean, sometimes the coverage they get through the credit card that you pay for your trip with might actually even be better than what you would get if you flip the box when you book your flight. So, for example, we looked at one of our credit cards. Our trip cancellation fee was $1,500. So that's not very much in my mind, but
that seems like a lot to me.
Well, I mean, not when you can. Well, if only one person was traveling, maybe, but when there are two of us, I'm not sure it would have made that much sense. The key is to know what your credit cards will or won't cover, and then book your flights and your rentals accordingly. Just don't assume that they cover the costs in full, because they often have caps. So $14,000 cruise might be covered, but until you read your policy thoroughly, you might not discover that they have a $3,000 cap on it. So just really inform yourself of what's going on. And finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about real quick is just rental car, because we did some checking too on the best way to make that happen and cover ourselves. And the rental car on one of the cards we use covers rental collision, and it's decent coverage, but to activate it, you have to know that you have to use that card for the full rental, and you have to decline the coverage that the rental car agency offers you. So sometimes you might be under pressure in a hurry to try to get out of there, because oftentimes there are lines when you're trying to rent your car. But don't take their coverage, because there's a good chance your credit card may offer better coverage. And as Scott pointed out when we were talking about this earlier, sometimes your own automobile insurance coverage is going to also provide some benefits. So again, read through the policy on your credit card, and those are pretty easy to find on the internet, and just kind of know what you're doing before you get started, so you don't get kind of stuck out in the cold like we did a little bit. So hope that was helpful. Not very interesting topic and not fun really to talk about. So I'm sure.
Well, when is insurance ever fun to talk about?
So if you've fallen asleep, wake up now. It's getting better.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, it's one of the, it is dull and nobody wants to spend a whole lot of time talking about it, but it is really important. You want to make sure that you're covered. All right, cool. So the next topic was hopefully a little bit more fun. We want to talk about gadgets. I'm a gadget guy, so this is my favorite part of the show. And so I found an article for the best travel gadgets, and all the 25 best gadgets, and we'll put a link to that also in our show notes. And one of the ones, we'll start in no particular order. One of the ones they have on here is Apple AirTags. And we got some AirTags before our last big trip and put them in, we put them in our luggage, put them in Julie's purse and my backpack. And it's just nice to have, especially if you are forgetful, you're going to leave it somewhere, or if, heaven forbid, things get stolen. It's nice that you have these that you can locate your stuff wherever it is. And I remember sitting on the plane and we were using it to see where our luggage was and whether it was going to make it on the plane with us or not.
Right.
And there are different ones. Well, there's the Apple AirTag, and then there's another one called TileMate, which is for both Apple and Android. And the difference between those two, like the TileMate, the battery is not replaceable. So in the AirTag, the battery is replaceable. So there's a difference there. But the AirTag, I don't believe it was only for Apple. So if you have an Android phone, you're going to have to look for a different solution. But definitely recommend something like that for your luggage, and your, like I said, like your purse, or your backpack, if you've got, all your other electronic equipment in there.
They call me crazy, but I leave the one in my purse in there 24/7.
I do too. Mine's in my backpack.
Yeah.
Of course, my backpack just sits upstairs in the office closet. But anyway,
better safe than sorry.
Yeah. The other thing, and I think you had actually found this somewhere else and told me about it, is this Bluetooth wireless audio transmitter. And what this does is this plugs into the headphone jack on the airplane, on the in the entertainment system that a lot of airplanes have now, especially on your longer flights. And it plugs in via like a headphone, 5mm or whatever it is, headphone jack, and then transmits via Bluetooth, and you can actually pair two headsets to it. So if you and your significant other, you want to share a movie together, you can plug it in and then pair both of your headphones to it. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a really good gadget right there.
Yeah, the only downside to it is that planes aren't universal in how you connect. But I think I think it's something that would be fun to have.
Yeah.
And there is it is rechargeable. You do have to keep it charged. And while we're talking about chargers, it's kind of funny. This isn't necessarily on here on this list specifically, but you always get like weird, or not always weird, but sometimes non-useful gifts from your company, maybe for like Christmas or something. But last year, my company gave everybody a battery pack, that you can use to charge your devices with. And the cool thing about the one that I got from my company is that it's you can recharge it. It's got solar panels on it, and you can recharge it with
right.
solar panels, with solar energy. And so it's kind of cool. I kind of use it around the house, and then when I need to charge it, I just put it out back in the morning and let the sun recharge it for me. So however you do it, I highly recommend having backup batteries. And I think we've got a number of them around the house now. But the last thing you want to do is be stuck somewhere, especially if you're going somewhere off grid or something. You want to make sure that you have battery power for your phone just in case, for emergencies.
Yeah.
And to me, an emergency is my phone dying on the plane and I've got nothing to do. So I highly recommend that. One of the other things too is that from this list that I kind of like and I'm thinking about getting is I use like an electric toothbrush, and they have like a portable version by Philips, portable Sonicare. And it's only like $20. And I like using an electric toothbrush. So I think I might buy that.
Yeah.
If my significant other will let me.
I don't care. Why would I care?
So there's a lot of cool gadgets. I know, there's this whole thing. I don't know, Julie, if you've seen this. Like, I forget what they call it, but this whole thing where people are like bragging about getting on a plane and just not doing anything.
Oh yeah.
I think. Well, the term that they use is one that's usually used for something else. They call it raw dogging, I think.
Oh, right.
And they, I think this is like the most heinous idea ever, is that I'm just going to sit there and stare at the seat in front of me for, like 6 hours. I'm flying from Philly or from New York to LA.
Right.
That's a hard pass.
Right.
But anyway, I think gadgets can make your life easier. Oh, one of the other things too I want to point out, we were just talking about this before, is if you are traveling overseas, and most people know this, but just in case you don't, different countries use different electricity. Like the outlets are different, and actually the voltage is different. And so you have to take adapter. You have to have an adapter. And we found this on this list. There's a universal travel adapter, and it just basically allows you to. It has like 4 different plugs with it, and then you plug that in, and then it has 4 USB-A ports, a USB-C port, and 1 AC socket. And so you can plug in all your different devices into that, And so I remember the first time we traveled overseas, we took like 5 wall adapters, and then ended up like plugging all of our devices into these 5 adapters. So every night we'd be in a different hotel, and I'd go around and plug all these in, and then plug, and the last time we went, we had bought just a single version of that, and the one I have is like 4 USB-A, 4 USB-C adapters, and so I just needed 1 wall plug to plug in, and then could plug in all of our stuff into that one. So it's just something else you have to think about. And there's this other one, this travel cable organizer, which is kind of cool. It's just like this little like wallet size thing, a little bit bigger than a wallet, to sort of keep all your cables and stuff organized, which is kind of nice. I always ended up like pulling out, these balls of wire every night. So I think I might get that too, if someone will let me.
You're always going to think I put the hammer down on you about spending money around here.
No,
they only knew it was the other way around.
Yeah. All right. So like I said, I'll post a link to that. And if people have any, other things, you can always drop it in a review that you can leave for us. Any other travel tips? So we wanted to end on a couple travel related. Julie mentioned this at the beginning. Travel related. Am I the assholes? Man, I just people just never cease to amaze me. So we'll start. The first one is, and I think we had seen this one like a few months ago, and we had talked about this offline before. And so when we were looking for stuff to talk about travel related, this one popped back up. So anyway, am I the asshole for flying first class while the rest of my family is flying economy?
Yes. Next question.
That's right. The short version is, dude gets upgraded and leaves his wife and 3 kids in steerage while he goes up to first class. And, he spends, of course he tries to talk about what a great deal it was, because it would have cost like he says, right before boarding began, they called his tier of the loyalty club. They had a couple of vacant first class seats that they can upgrade. It would cost $500. He also ended up using points, so it only cost him $150 for what is, as he put, a massively better flight experience. And this doesn't make it any better. He tries to, say it's a long overnight flight. It's not like, he's flying, from Nashville to Charlotte or something.
Which is even more reason you're an asshole.
It really is. I think we've kind of talked about this before, where, we've said well, what if they upgraded one of us? Would we do it?
Right. I mean, you can throw some different scenarios in there. Like you don't have kids, but she's back there with 3 children.
3 kids.
Which is just asshole times 3. And then, so take the kids out of the equation. That changes things just a little bit. And I would say that if it were you or I, there might, and it's a long flight, perhaps you fly first class for a while, and then we switch seats and I fly first class for a while, Right. So I go up and get the free drinks, and then I go back to my seat and sleep for a while, and then you do the same thing. So, I mean, I'd like to think that if it were just you and I, and even if it was just a short flight and they were going to upgrade you, we talked about this before, I'm okay with that. I think you'd be okay with that if it were me.
I would let you go first class. I wouldn't care. Yeah. If they upgrade, if they said we have 1 first class seat, I'd tell you to take it.
Yeah, and vice versa.
I would.
But a long flight with 3 kids is a completely different story.
3 kids under 10 and 1 is an infant.
Yeah, no. No.
We've dispatched with him pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So the other one is, let's see. Gosh, I gotta try to really shorten this because this is a long one. So this one is, am I the asshole boarding the plane and leaving without my wife? So the really short version of this long entry is, dude is type A, which I don't know that really matters, but he wants to get to the airport 90 minutes ahead of time. He talks about the first incident. They live about 30 minutes from the airport. Flight leaves at 10. And he's trying to get his wife out and about. And it's he has a hard time getting her up. She wants to take a shower and have breakfast and drink coffee. And, so they end up basically getting to the airport late, missing their flight. And so, they were flying to see his daughter, her stepdaughter, and the airline, their daughter was away at school. They're on the West Coast, daughter's on the East Coast. Anyway, so the airline, of course, refused to refund their ticket. They got new tickets, but not until the next day. So they missed like a whole day with their daughter. And so then the next time they're going to fly, they go and so they get there on time, of course they got there with a little bit of time to spare. So his wife was annoyed that they had to wait to start boarding. So then they took their first flight and landed in a connecting city, and there the wife wanted to go get coffee, and there was a little market there where they could have got coffee, but that wasn't good enough for her. She wanted to go to Starbucks, which was like in another terminal. So she had to take like a train, one of those like rails to the other terminal. And long story short, she misses the flight, and he boards. He's like, I'm not making my daughter miss us again. Right. I'm getting on the plane. They closed the wife shows up at the gate. They've already pulled the jetway back. And she calls him and wants him to tell them to let him off.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. So, she got there.
He's not the asshole.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, she could have gotten coffee somewhere else. And just know how long those situations take sometimes. And then use your head, man. You don't have time to go all the way over there and get back before your flight. I remember a trip before where I had to go to the bathroom, and the bathroom that was closest, they'd closed for cleaning, and I had to walk and try to find another bathroom. And by the time I got out of that bathroom and was headed back, they were already boarding the plane, and you were sitting there looking at me going, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. I mean, that was a bio break, though. I had to go.
Yeah.
So... But coffee, no.
And especially when she could have got coffee at like this little coffee shop right there, but had to go to Starbucks to get her overpriced latte, double half calf, fat, pumpkin spice. That's what it was. But yeah, I agree, and similarly when we're talking about like the upgrade thing, if we were going to see your daughter and I missed the flight, and you would be right to get on the plane without me.
I think so too.
I mean,
especially if it's the second time.
Right.
I mean,
how much does that cost you too?
I know.
Like they had to buy new tickets, and then
ridiculous.
When she told him to get off the plane, he's like, "No, I'm not missing time with my daughter again." He told her, "Go buy a ticket for the next flight." Well, how much does that cost them though?
Yeah, they got issues. That whole situation. They've got some things to talk about.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not like a nervous flyer. But I get a little.
You get a little antsy about getting to the airport on time.
Yeah, I want to get there on time, and I want to board. I want to be in my I get in my seat, and my bag is overhead. Like I don't have to fight with other people who bring 6 bags, and the airline lets them. Like. I get on the plane and sit down in my seat.
Yeah.
I'm fine then.
Yeah, but you get a little...
But up until then, I do get a little stressed.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. You definitely do.
So, all right.
Okay, so all in all, travel. Y'all get out there. Do it. It's fun. It's a beautiful planet. Meet new and interesting people. See the wonders of the world that you've never seen before. And yes, it's expensive to travel. So protect your investment, check your insurance options, and prepare for a less than perfect travel experience, and then celebrate when nothing goes wrong.
Right. Yeah, I mean, holidays are approaching, right? We're recording this September 1st. So we're, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that stuff is going to be here before we know it.
Right.
So, make your plans, think things through, plan for all the possible issues. Even though like that one trip we were talking about from the UK ended with separate flights home, the overall experience was worth it. Yeah, and, sure. We just had to deal with the insurance. So hopefully we've given you some tips to make that a smoother experience.
Yeah.
And we hope that's been helpful.
Yeah. So thanks again for listening to us today. We know your time is valuable. We appreciate that you gave us some. So until next time.
Please rate, review us wherever you get your podcasts so others can join in the fun. See you next week. Music today is by London Bailey, and have a great day.